Well, hello there, chums. It is I, Captain Steve, and I have a video for you guys. Yep, you included. So, the video for you guys today is a little bit of a strange one. So, I'm going to play some old footage from 2015, GDC to be precise. It was actually uploaded in 2017, but yeah, it was from 2015, and it's the art director at Hello Games talking about the art and direction of No Man's Sky, and I've just picked out a few choice points. I will put a card at the top of the screen, so just up there, chums, up there somewhere. Yeah, that probably pointed to the wrong side, but yeah, you know where it normally is. So up there will be a card to the original video. Exo, if you could just please play the segments. Here we go.
But what we found by creating those sort of biomes, those separate biomes, that human beings are really, really good at spotting patterns. So you'd fly down to a planet and it would be a swamp planet, and you'd go, oh, it's a swamp planet, and instantly that breaks this illusion, and you just realize what's going on behind the scenes. And the thing with video game artwork is so much of what we do is an illusion, like, especially linear games where you can look out a window and you can see a mountain in the distance, but we all know that you can't get to that mountain. And as artists work in the industry, everything we do is where it's all pretend, and we don't want anybody to see behind the scenes. And having those separate biomes, it absolutely revealed that, and our game is it's incredibly important that you don't get that sense of illusion. So what we ended up doing was creating what I call a super biome, which is a biome which covers all those biomes in one fell swoop. And what's a good way of explaining? If you imagine if you've ever used like a terrain generation tool where you'll have lots of different sliders that control different things like spikiness of mountains, trees. And we have that, but we have hundreds of different sliders, and we have min and max values for all those different sliders, but I don't have to go into every planet and manually move those sliders. What happens is when a planet is terraformed, those sliders are moved to different positions. Now, originally those positions were random, but what we found really interesting is if you start to link those sliders to things within the universe, like distance from a sun, whether the planet has a moon or not, then the results start to become believable, and you start to spot patterns, but it's patterns that you accept because you start to realize that, oh, this planet's really close to the sun, so the foliage is either going to be non-existent or it's just not going to be very green. And that's where the believability comes into it. And talking about procedural props, we use our blueprint system to create these. So it's not I've been talking to a few artists over the past week, and they're all really interested in procedural artwork, but also very skeptical of it, understandably so, because a lot of the way it's presented on the internet is just this magic button that you click and then artwork pops out. But and I imagine some people do that, but that's not how we do it. It's still incredibly artistic driven, and your procedural artwork's only as good as the base template that we create. I'm going to talk about that. So this is a tree trunk, and this is the blueprint system. It adds a type of branch, then adds a type of leaf. It then selects a bark type and a leaf type, and it's then decorated to match the environment, and it is then skewed to be different. And then we can see it for a different version where we take the same trunk, a different set of branches is selected, different leaves, different texture, and different shape. And essentially every single prop in the game is created like this. And what you're seeing here is, in the same way I talk about the train having all these different sliders, we have the same for trees. So all that's happened here is it's gone, I'm going to add some branches. How many branches shall I add? Select it based on a slider. What kind of leaf am I going to have? Select that based on a slider. So these are just two examples, and that's just one type of trunk. We have hundreds of kinds of trunks and thousands of different leaves and hundreds of different bark types. And the way it feels is that we're actually, if you've ever played like World of Warcraft, where you load up the game and you spend the first 10 hours fiddling around with the character creation, just scaling bones, moving decals. We have that, but for every single prop in the game, so it's all based on this set of parameters that we custom make for each thing. And what's cool with that as well is that we can have, well, I had to say here about the age of a prop, but that's, I hate the word prop. It can be the age of anything. So we can have trees, and you can say, you know, if you want a tree to be within a certain age, you know that the trunk will be thinner, it'll have less branches. And the same with a creature, you know that the head stays roughly the same size, the body will be smaller, the legs will be shorter. And it means you can very easily have like a whole flock of sheep, and you can have adolescents, you can have babies, you can have grown adults, and I don't have to custom make those. All I have to do is say, when you spawn a group of sheep, you should spawn, you know, 10 adults, 15 adolescents, and it knows, because you tell it the min and max values of those, that it'll just create them, and that adds to the believability of the world. This is a blueprint system on the trees, so what you see on the left here is just all the variants, and on the right you essentially see what is currently picked. This is just an in-game tool we have for viewing variants. So I click on View Variants, and it creates a load more on the left, and you can see the currently selected one on the right. This works for plants as well. For every plant in the game, you see all the variation on the left. I can cycle through them. And the way that's possible is, when I was talking about turning yourself into a little robot, that's kind of what I had to do. So we just have a system for creating as many kind of trunks as we can. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's just we do as many as we can, and just try to change the silhouette as much as possible to get as much variation as possible. So we'll have trunks, branches, leaves, different materials, and various extras that we can add on, like fungus, moss, and each one of those small extras adds to the variation. This is an example of some of the alphas we create for leaves, and these are really cool because you just create as many as you want, and it's amazing the impact it has. Now, what you're seeing here is an example of the blueprint system. Like, this is what I'm showing here is exactly the same planet, but all I've tweaked is the seed value of the trees. So you're stood in exactly the same place, and I've just clicked View Variants, and it's just changed the type of tree. And you can see it again. And what this is showing is that even if we weren't to change the terrain at all, if we weren't to touch mineral colours or anything like that, you can still get a very different feeling planet just from changing tree shapes, which to us was really amazing, because one of the number one thing people seem to worry about is how you make every planet feel different. And the moment we started to fiddle around with those kind of values, it made us all feel a lot calmer. This is a video that's showing a few of the worlds.
The fire burns through the night, but it won't control our distance to the earth. This energy plays and turns, but we won't fall apart, 'cause we got this. The fire burns until the morning comes. The morning comes around. The fire learns to destroy until the morning comes. The morning comes around. The fire burns by the storm.
We also have rules when it comes to things like shapes, and we talk about believability. Like, say, like a sort of swamp environment that's been, when the planet's been terraformed, it'll have it'll have generated this climate and ecosystem, and again, based on all these nice little universe rules, like how far away from the sun, or just the minerals in the soil, and that's all just like nice little controllable factors. But what happens is, we know that we can tag certain types of leaf and tree and branch as being matching to a climate. So essentially what that means is, on a swamp planet, you will get swamp leaves and swamp branches. That sounds like it's limiting, but it works over a huge number of things. And it means that can also get filtered through to creatures. So in a sort of damp environment, you're going to get these more cold-blooded, sort of waxy, damp-looking creatures. And also some of the colour from the environment will leak through to the creatures, so there'll be natural camouflage. Or in the same way, we can have the opposite of that, where we can add in props that are complementary, so they'll stand out, and that's when the real fun begins. And I'm going to show a final video, which hopefully shows all those things off.
Fire burns through the night, but it won't control our distance to the earth. This energy plays and turns, but we won't fall apart, 'cause we got this. Fire burns until the morning comes, the morning comes around. The fire learns to destroy until the morning comes, the morning comes around.
Yes.
Okay, chums, now what I want to see is if that's true. Okay, right, so Exo, if you wouldn't mind, could you just play some footage of the planets that I've recently visited? Here we go! Execute! Okay, so firstly I landed on some frost planets just to see if the frost planets had any subtle differences from one another or anything like that, and they do have subtle differences. I mean, on this one I came across this pretty gnarly tree almost immediately and thought, right, okay, well, this looks pretty randomly generated. I mean, look how the roots are hugging that rock. Now, I hadn't actually seen this before. I thought that was pretty amazing and pretty unique, and I looked around at all the other trees and I was like, hold on, that looks like it might be procedurally generated. I might be barking up the wrong tree, quite literally. And then I saw this creature over here with the sort of flat tail and thought, I have seen that on many a planet, and that does not look like it should belong on this planet. You know, it should have fur or something. You know, pretty much like that chap was saying, that the creatures are there based on the planets that they're on. I'm still looking for one of those trees hugging a rock. I couldn't find one. So yeah, I thought, well, maybe I'll just trek about on foot just for a moment, just to see if it is a pre-made asset, or whether there is a slight amount of procedural generation that I just wasn't aware of previously. So yeah, I just headed on over in a direction for a couple of seconds, and then, hey presto, just over the hill, I found myself another one of those exact same tree models with the roots sort of hugging itself around a rock. There we go, there it is. So that's that one, and my ship marker is all the way back over yonder, which I'm just going to fly back to just to show that this one is there, and exactly the same, the way it branches off, almost like it's got a tail. It almost looks like a creature, doesn't it? That's really cool. I mean, yeah, that's a fantastic tree. It's a fantastic model, and it's not one I've come across before. So it's a rarity, it's a nice find, but then when there's one just maybe 100 feet away from it, somewhere else, it kind of breaks that immersion. And then I realised, look over there, just to the right, there's another one. And, you know, I went walking off 100 yards the other way, but the storm was quite raging, so I couldn't really see what I was doing or where I was going. But there we are. They are all over the place on this planet, chums. They're not as rare as I once thought, which is a real shame, because I thought I'd just sort of defeated my own objective of this video. So, yeah. But anyway, pretty cool planet. I do like it when you get a storm on an ice world. It was pretty damn sweet. And I do like the particle effects, the snowing effects. I think they have improved the snow biomes and the frost worlds quite a lot. So I took off and I flew myself to another frost world. And long and behold, there was another storm raging. And the trees and things all look fairly similar. There wasn't a tree hugging a rock with its roots on this planet, chums. But the general feel and general aesthetics of a frost biome is pretty much the same as one another. Now, from the video that we was watching from the art director of Hello Games, he said, you know, people won't just look at a frost biome and say, oh, it's a frost biome, I won't bother going there. But yeah, sadly, that's kind of what's happening in a roundabout way, because you can kind of predict what you're going to find on each of the biomes to some degree. I mean, they all look fairly similar. I mean, this one, once I put the sun in the sky, like now, looks just like the other one when it wasn't in a storm. The only nice thing about this one is it's got those little bipedal chaps walking around. However, I scanned him and he turned out to be freaking huge on the discovery screen. He filled it. I could just see his lower half, couldn't see his head. So I thought, well, let's fly to different biomes that are a little bit more varied, that we know are a bit more varied. So I flew to a cactus world next, chums. So here we are, covered in cactuses. I love the red coloration of the actual ground on this one. It looks pretty nice. And the pink sky, it looks like something out of some sort of country western film. It's pretty damn sweet. Again, I've got fat-bodied creatures with sort of like flat tails, which I just saw on a previous sort of biome, which the two biomes couldn't be poles apart. I mean, yeah, bit odd. So now I landed on another cactus world, and I must say this one is slightly different. The ground isn't as pink and the sky isn't as pink, and we've got these giant bulrush type plants, which is quite nice, and we had a little bit more of a shrubbery and grass going on this one than we did on the other one. So yeah, there is subtle difference between the two different cactus worlds, and I do enjoy visiting the cactus worlds. Cactus worlds and the lush planets are my favourites for visiting, chums, and also the redacted ones, the ones where they're not the exotic planets or the colour chrome ones. There's one that I'm going to put at the end of the video, so stay tuned. After I say goodbye at the end, that's not the end. I'm going to land on a blood planet, and it is pretty damn amazing. So yeah, although that I'm pointing out some of the faults at the moment with the random generation and things like that. I mean, remember that little creature you just saw in that grass just there, because he's echoed again on the blood planet at the end, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I'm jumping out on another cactus world, and this cactus world looks fairly similar to the previous ones that we've been on. I mean, it's still got the sort of reddish sort of tint to the ground. Let me just go into camera mode and throw the sun in the sky so you can see the coloration. You see what I mean? But it's got these gnarly rock formations which are really quite cool. I really like these. They're really cool. They almost look like creatures at a distance. But you see they've got a small hole, then they've got a large hole, and in the large hole they've got two plants. Yep, so you've got a large hole, you've got a small hole. This one though, that one's got blue plants on it, where this one's got yellow. In fact, they've all got yellow, apart from that one that's got blue plants on it. Wouldn't it be cool if you did spot a randomly placed wireframe, and when you shot it, it'd be cool if something wicked happened, or you got some sort of really cool drop from it or something. So it almost makes spot the difference kind of fun. But and at the same time, if you're spotting the difference, I mean, you can't really spot the difference in these wireframes. I was just lucky to spot that one of them had blue flowers on rather than yellow, which is bizarre because that is something I've not noticed before. I guess if you're looking for it, you're going to spot it, but if you're not, then you're not. But yeah, look, the yellow plants are in exactly the same place. Now, if this was procedurally generated, they wouldn't be. They would all be different. And yeah, you'd see more than just the yellow variety from the blue. You'd see random ones. So now I've moved on to fungus worlds. So these are like the toxic planets. Now, inside the video clip that we saw earlier, he showed sort of like swamp biomes, and he even referred to them as Dagobah type biomes during that video, if you watch the full video. And yeah, I've not come across a single swamp planet that looked like Dagobah or had willow tree-like structures. All the ones I come across have tentacle-like plants or mushroom plants, be them fully round or be them capped. And yeah, sometimes you get some of those shell-type things, but the fungal world planets for me, chums, are one of the most repetitive biomes. The fungal and the frost are by far my most repetitive ones. I'm landing on here. You can see the giant round balls on the ground and the finger type plants. There's not so many mushrooms on this one, but the finger type plants you see all over the place, chums, when you go to fungal world planets. Sometimes they're mixed with mushrooms. I see the same plants repeated multiple times on the fungal worlds, and I really wish that they would add fog and marshland and swamp-like areas to some of the fungal planets. Not all, just some. Keep some like this, but then mix it up a bit with some of the swamp-type biomes that he pictured videos of during that clip earlier on, chums. So heading over to these rocks, you can see here, I don't know why those crystals vanished all of a sudden, chums. It's almost like they said, right, we don't want those bits there, but we do want the starfish. The starfish are going to stay, which don't make any sense. It would make sense if they had starfish nearer to the banks of oceans, and if the banks of oceans actually had starfish in them, or if there were starfish moving around on the planets as actual creatures. I mean, what the heck? Okay, anyway, I'm digressing, going off on a weird tangent about starfish. But anyway, here's another fungal world. Now this one took me by surprise a little bit. This one, out of all the fungal worlds that I visited today, I like some of the structures on here. However, it has got the mushrooms, which we've seen previously on these fungal worlds. And you see those weird bulbous ones over there in the background. Again, we've seen those on one of the fungal worlds that we just looked at. And some of the rocks are exactly the same. In fact, all the rocks are freaking the same. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because from what we heard from those clips from the art director is there were going to be mutations of each of the wireframes, or props as he calls them, and yeah, they were all going to be randomly generated and different. And yet I am seeing, like, this is a different planet, and I'm still seeing the frickin' starfish. So they get around a bit, these starfish. Frickin' starfish. Who knows? But there we go. We've got another fat-bodied creature with a flat tail, which we've seen similar on other planets, be it Frost or be it a desert planet. They're on Fungal World as well, where I think we should have more Fungal World type creatures like the frogs. Like you said, there'd be amphibious creatures on the Fungal Worlds. But yeah, I don't see that happening right now, chums. It just seems to be the creatures are rubber stamped everywhere. So here I am on a Gamma planet, and you can see the big giant red-leafed plant there in the background, some that look almost like bulbous eyes, and then I land on another planet, and we've got the same red type fanned plants, and it hasn't got the bulbous plants, the same ones anyway, on this planet, but yeah, it has got the big red fanned leaf plants, which you see quite a lot of. And yes, they're varied, but at the same time not enough to say that it's completely different. It could just be a different area of the same planet, couldn't it, really, chums? I mean, it's not that diverse when you go to these oh, and it's not Gamma, is it? This is isn't this the Scorched? This is Scorched, I believe, chums. Yeah, Scorched planets. Sorry, I get mixed up with the Scorched and the Gamma planets, because to me they look fairly similar. I mean, there we are. There's the big round-topped ones again. This one hasn't got so many of the red-leafed fanned plants, but there are a couple about. But yeah, again, fairly similar to the previous planet we landed on. And if you was one side of the planet to the other side of the planet, you would think that you would have this sort of level of variety anyway. And here we go, I'm touching down on another Scorched planet here, chums. And if I just put the sun in the sky, so here we go, so it's nighttime at the moment, but you can already see that there's big red fanned plants in the background there. There are some twisty-turny ones which are quite cool. They look quite cool, like the candy stripy type ones. They look quite like helter-skelters made out of something evil. Yeah, I quite liked this one out of all of them, but at the same time, it looks fairly similar to the rest, doesn't it? Fairly standard. And again, we've got another fat-bodied creature with a small, stubby, flat tail, which I just see everywhere. They're on every frickin' biome at the moment, chums. They might have different textures, but they do look fairly frickin' similar, don't they? At a quick glance, they look almost identical. I bet if you went on the Discoveries page, you'd find that they are completely different creatures. But even still, at a quick glance, they look the same. So here we go. Here's a Gamma world. You see what I mean? I almost thought this was Scorched, because they do look fairly similar. The only real difference is you see some of these sort of gnarly, sort of underwatery type looking plants on Gamma worlds, which is quite cool. But I would expect all the creatures to be severely mutated on these sort of planets, but yet they look exactly the same as the creatures that we just saw on the Scorched planet. I mean, this one looks like a Scorched planet, doesn't it? But again, it's a Gamma radioactive planet. You see those big trees with the sort of red bulbous lumps on the top. I land on another planet quite soon, I think, that's got exactly the same trees on it. Exactly the same. If I fly down here, Here we go. Let's have a look at these creatures. What do we got down here? So yeah, it's another fat-bodied creature with a flat tail. Fantastic. Yeah, so they're everywhere, as I say. These fat-bodied creatures with flat tails. They do get around a bit, and I'm jumping out of my ship again. So this is a completely different planet now, chums, and you can see there's those trees that I was on about with these sort of red nipples at the top. Exactly the same frickin' wireframe. But on this one, I get chased by a predatory creature as soon as I land, which was quite a nice surprise. And you see those weird sort of octopus creatures in the background flying around? Awesome. Now, they look like they belong on a radioactive planet, don't they? They look freaking like the things out of nightmares. Okay, chums, so as you can see that some of the actual information that we was given back in 2015 may have been true at the time, but I wouldn't say that it is now. No. Now, I've been hoping and holding out for the variety that was shown in 2015 for some time. Now, a lot of people out there would say, Mr. Steve, you've got a heck of a lot more. You've got base building, you've got cooking, you've got creature riding, taming, all sorts of lovely stuff. You've got freighters. You can own your own freighter. You can own more than one ship. All of this was not at launch. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a bit of analogy, chums. A little bit of analogy. So just bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can find my analogy. Where's my analogy? Okay, yeah. So my analogy, chums, right? Say if you see an advert for a brand new car on TV and that car has a sat-nav. Fantastic. Sat-nav. Awesome. So you go to the garage, you go to the manufacturers and you buy said car. You get it out of the manufacturers, you go to turn on your sat-nav and it turns out to be a frickin' radio. And then you look in your glove box and you have a map book. And it says sat-nav on the front. It's not a sat-nav. It's a frickin' map book. Okay, so I paid for a car with a sat-nav because that was what was in the advert. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at, chums, is in the adverts and all the pre-release videos, they stated that everything would be procedurally generated, including the props, the wireframes. And that was clear from the GDC 2015, chums. So yeah, it's not in the game currently, chums, and that's a given. I'm just going off of facts. I'm not going off of anything else. This isn't me speculating or jumping on hype trains or anything like that. This is me just pointing out that these things were in the game. In the game. Yeah. So yeah, I'd like to post this up to the Zendesk, send it up for the attention of the art director to find out what the heck went wrong, why it went astray. I mean, I say it went wrong, it may not. They may have done this for good reasons. It could be that it was too harsh on the actual technology it was put on. I mean, my base PS4 sounds like it's going to take off half the time. You know, they could put all this wondrous magical stuff in and it won't play on my actual machine. So yeah, who knows? They may have done it for a good reason, but I'd like to understand what the reason is, chums. So yeah, I will be sending this to the Zendesk to see what they have to say. But yeah, it's very rare that you get a direct reply, but we can wait and we can see. Anyway, chums, until next time, goodbye for now. Cheery bye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. So yeah, well, I was flying around, landing on all these planets to formulate this video, and I came across this. It was called a blood planet. And I was like, have I landed on a blood planet before? And I wasn't sure, so I thought, well, let's just take a little dip behind the clouds and let's see what we've got here. I was half expecting it to turn into one of those chroma-type planets, but it didn't. And I thought, well, maybe it might be one of those ones with the giant, gnarly plants all over it. But it wasn't. I flew down to the actual surface and I found it was one with the giant Sonic-like rings, which, yeah, I've seen quite a lot of, but normally they go black and white for me or they go bright red. It's very rare that I've landed one, and it's actually kept its colour like this. I mean, this has got sort of like a light purple type grass, it's got weird sort of mushroomy type plants that I don't think I've come across before, so it's a new find for me. This is a first for me. I mean, you may have come across something fairly similar to this, but for me, this was a new experience, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I've just gone and said about how all these planets look fairly similar. Now I've come across a biome that in my 3-4 years of playing, I haven't actually come across before. You know, I've been a day one player, and I haven't come across a planet that's had these gravitino balls, yet no sentinels whatsoever. There's no sentinels on this planet, chum, so you can just run around picking gravitino balls until your heart's content. I mean, for a new player, that would be brilliant in getting units, you know, just go harvesting a load of gravitino balls. What a fantastic find. What a beautiful planet this is. And I was just breathtaken. Now, I get the experience when I'm travelling maybe once a week where I come across something amazing. But just lately, chums, I'm going to admit, I play for maybe an hour or two a day, because if I'm playing in VR, that's about all I can stand. Or if I'm actually playing on Quicksilver, that's about as long as a mission might take me, if it's a really difficult one. If it's a quick one, I'm only on it for like half hour or so. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I'm probably missing out on some more planets like this. I mean, look at the colour of the sky, bright green. What a contrast against the purple. Now, I didn't actually build a base here, chums. There's a reason that it's one of those systems that hasn't got a space station at all, and it hasn't got no sort of ships that come flying in or anything like that, or land. So it's a little bit of one of those planets which is beautiful if you could pick it up and move it. Yeah, but yeah, it's a fantastic planet, as I say, for picking up gravitino balls, and gravitino balls are quite a rarity. So maybe I should have built a base here. Maybe I should have. However, I didn't, and I was looking around at the creatures. If this had Diplos, this would have become my new home planet, even though there weren't any sort of, space stations and things. Now, I did explore this planet for quite some time, and there's like, 10 creatures to find, and I found 8 of the 10. I found all the land-based creatures. I didn't bother with the water-based creatures. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have had a look to see if there was a shark in there or something, chums, but no, I didn't. But yeah, I found the land-based creatures and the airborne creatures, and yeah, a beautiful planet, but there is like bouncing creatures on this planet, lots of them. In fact, virtually all the creatures that I found were the bouncing variety of creature. And you know that I showed you one of the creatures earlier on, chums, with the multiple eyes bouncing about. Well, this planet had exactly the same creatures. You can see one just over there hopping about in the grass right now. But yeah, which was a bit of a disappointment, because you do see the bouncing creatures on planets that don't really make much sense. Like you see them on the snow type planets, and you see them like, I think they should be on the scorched planets, because they're going to be red hot. So a lot of creatures on scorched planets, if you look at our own planet, we've got sidewinder snakes, we've got those little lizards that do the funny dances that don't like keeping their feet on the ground. Bouncing creatures belong on the hot planets. I don't think they really belong on these sort of worlds. Well, maybe this one, but not the snow planets. Definitely not the snow one. Okay, so a big thank you and a shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you very much there, guys. And if you want to see your name at the end of one of my videos like this one, there is a tier for that. It's £1.50 per month to appear on my Patreon. And yeah, but there are other tiers as well. Okay, now good news, chums. I have actually managed to order a 3D printer now, the Adventurer 3, like you see in here. It's a refurbished one. I picked it up off of eBay, but it's an A-class, so it's as good as new. And yeah, I will be trying to make ship models and get them out to people, but first I've just got to learn how to use the thing. But yeah, the run in total, I can still keep it up and update it, but it's on its way, chums. I now have merch, yeah, so I've got quite a lot of different ranges, something there for pretty much everyone. So yeah, take a look at my Teespring store, which I've only just set up. If you want to support me in another way, there's always PayPal, yeah. Well, he looks fairly tired, doesn't he, chums? Yeah, well, he's probably took it out from watching all the No Man's Sky content on my channel. Yeah, so which you can click some of those links that are on the screen right now to do exactly the same thing. He doesn't look too fussed now. But yeah, or you can hit subscribe, the little subscribe button icon, that'd be cool. Alright, chums, we'll catch you later. Goodbye. He looks far too busy. Oh no, he's back. Yeah, sorry, chum. I was just talking about you, not to you. Bye-bye.